The silence in this house has a language of its own. It speaks in the soft click of the thermostat, the hum of the refrigerator, the unnerving space between the ticks of the grandfather clock in the hall. It's a language Silas and I have become fluent in over the past 2 years. He is a phantom in the kitchen, a shadow passing on the stairs. He'll meet my eyes across the dinner table, but his gaze is like polished glass, it reflects me without letting me in. The spell only breaks when one of our daughters enters the room. Just now, Sage, our 16-year-old, wandered in, her phone glowing in her hand. "Dad, can you look at this problem for my calculus homework? It's killing me." Instantly, the atmosphere shifted. The temperature in the room seemed to rise 10 degrees. A switch flipped behind Silas's eyes, and the ghost was gone, replaced by the man I married. He smiled, a genuine, warm smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "Of course, sweetie. Let's see what we've got." He leaned over her phone, his voice a low, patient murmur as he explained the derivative. I watched them, a spectator at a play about my own life. This was the man I fell in love with. The attentive father, the patient teacher. For 5 minutes, our kitchen was filled with the easy warmth of a happy family. I felt a desperate, pathetic urge to chime in, to be part of it, but I knew better. The moment Sage smiled, said, "Oh, I get it now. Thanks, Dad," and drifted out of the room, the warmth evaporated. The switch flipped back. The smile vanished from Silas's face as if it had never been there. The glass wall descended between us again. He rinsed his coffee mug, placed it in the dishwasher with a quiet finality, and walked out without another word, leaving me alone with the humming silence. This is my life now. A countdown, a performance, a long, quiet wait for the end. It wasn't always like this. For 17 years, we were the couple other people envied. Silas and Lorelei. We had the sprawling house in the neighborhood with the good schools, the 2 beautiful daughters, the matching SUVs. We were a cliché of suburban success, but we felt authentic. We were relationship goals before the hashtag existed. Silas was the husband my friends complained they never had. He remembered our anniversary without a calendar reminder. He'd bring home my favorite Thai food on days I came home ragged from work. When Willow and Sage were little, he invented daddy days, whisking them away to parks and museums, so I could have a blessed day of silence to myself. He listened, truly listened, when I vented about office politics, rubbing my feet after I'd spent a day in heels that were both gorgeous and torturous. For our 15th anniversary, he didn't just book a dinner. He planned an entire weekend getaway to a coastal town we loved, curating a list of all my favorite things, a visit to a small, independent bookstore, a long walk on the wind, whipped beach, dinner at a tiny seafood restaurant he'd had to book months in advance. My friends were green with envy. "How do you two still look at each other like that?" They'd ask at neighborhood barbecues, and I'd give a knowing smile as Silas's arm slipped around my waist. I felt a secret, smug superiority when other wives complained about their husbands. Forgotten birthdays, dirty socks, the mental load they carried alone. Silas wasn't like that. He was attentive, thoughtful, a true partner. He was everything I had ever wanted. Or so I thought. The restlessness began as a low hum beneath the surface, sometime around year 15. The predictability that once felt like a warm, secure blanket started to feel like a weighted one, pinning me down. I knew what Silas would say before he said it. I could anticipate his every gesture, his every thought. Date nights became a routine, different restaurant, same conversation. Our physical intimacy was a choreographed dance we'd perfected over thousands of performances. It wasn't bad, it was just known. Too known. The things I once found endearing began to grate on me. The way he cleared his throat before making a point. The ritual of checking the locks 3 times before bed. His predictable, measured reactions to everything. God, the predictability was suffocating me. I'd look at him across the dinner table, listening to him talk about his day, and a terrifying thought would slither into my mind. Is this it? Is this all there is for the next 30 years? I never said a word. How could I? What kind of ungrateful monster complains about a husband who is kind and decent? So I smiled and nodded, playing my part, while feeling like I was slowly disappearing inside myself. I started working late, volunteering for every demanding project. I told myself it was for my career, but I was just avoiding the crushing sameness of my perfect life. The girls were teenagers by then. Willow and Sage lost in their own orbits of friends and social media. They needed me less, which left more time for the dissatisfaction to fester. I started paying more attention to my appearance, updating my wardrobe, getting a chic, shorter haircut. Silas noticed, of course. "You look amazing, Lore," he'd say, his eyes full of sincere appreciation. And for a moment, I'd feel a flicker of warmth before the restlessness returned. I wanted more than appreciation. I wanted passion. A spark. A reaction that felt less like contentment and more like desire. I started wondering if another man would look at me and feel that spark I was missing. And then Reese started at the office. Reese wasn't handsome in the classical way Silas was. He was younger, edgier, with a restless energy that felt like a magnet to the dormant parts of my soul. He wasn't even my type, but he looked at me. He didn't look at Lorelei the wife, or Lorelei the mother of two. He looked at Lorelei the woman. He saw the person I was afraid I had lost. When we were assigned to the same high-stakes project, I found myself lingering after meetings, making excuses to collaborate. Our professional interactions bled into personal ones. It started with coffee. Just colleagues, I told myself. Then it became lunch. Just friends. I repeated the mantra until it lost all meaning. The first time was after a brutally long night at the office. Everyone else had gone home. We were hunched over a spreadsheet, the air thick with exhaustion and the low hum of the servers. He reached for the same file I did, and our hands touched. It wasn't a fleeting brush. It was a moment of static electricity that seemed to arc through the entire room. In that instant, 17 years of marriage, of shared history and sacred vows, vaporized in the forbidden heat of something new. He didn't pull away. Neither did I. He looked at me, and his eyes asked a question. My answer was in the way I leaned in. I told myself it was a mistake, a one-time lapse in judgment fueled by stress and proximity. But then it happened again, and again. I became a person I didn't recognize. I was a master of deceit, creating elaborate lies about work dinners and weekend seminars. I deleted text threads, my heart pounding with a mixture of terror and exhilaration. For 6 months, I lived a double life. And for the first time in years, I felt thrillingly, dangerously alive, all while carrying the crushing weight of my betrayal. The mental gymnastics I performed were astonishing. I constructed a narrative where I was the victim. Silas had grown complacent. We'd lost our spark. I deserved to feel desired. Reese understood the part of me that felt stifled. Looking back, I see the truth. Reese wasn't interested in my soul. He was ambitious, and sleeping with a senior colleague was likely a move on his career chessboard. But in the moment, his attention was an intoxicating drug. Every stolen kiss in the supply closet, every secret hotel meeting, felt like a gasp of oxygen after years of slow suffocation. I got careless. High on the adrenaline, I started taking risks. One night, I left my phone unlocked on the bedside table while I took a shower. It was all it took. When I came out, wrapped in a towel, Silas was sitting on the edge of the bed. He was holding my phone, his face a mask of utter devastation. It was a look I will never forget. Not rage, not fury, but a hollowed-out shock, as if he'd just been informed his entire world was a lie. And underneath it all, a flicker of something worse. A complete lack of surprise. As if some part of him had been waiting for this exact betrayal. "How long?" he asked. His voice was flat, devoid of emotion. It scared me more than if he had screamed. I tried to lie. The instinct was automatic. It's nothing. Just some stupid, flirty texts. A crush. It didn't mean anything. He just stared at me, his devastated eyes seeing right through the pathetic falsehoods. The truth finally spilled out of me, a torrent of confessions I couldn't control. I minimized where I could, painting it as more of an emotional affair, trying to portray myself as confused rather than calculating. But enough of the ugly truth came out to shatter everything we had ever built. The foundation of our life turned to dust in that silent bedroom. I expected him to yell, to break things, to storm out and drive away into the night. That's what happens in the movies. Instead, Silas just sat there, nodding slightly, as if I were a doctor confirming a terminal diagnosis he had long suspected. When I finished my stammering, tear-soaked confession, he stood up, walked to the guest room, and closed the door behind him. The click of the latch was the loudest sound I had ever heard. That profound, echoing quiet was infinitely worse than any screaming could have been. The next day, the implosion spread to my professional life. Silas, it turned out, had spent the night not sleeping, but meticulously going through my messages and emails. He had forwarded the most damning evidence to himself and then to our company's HR department. By noon, both Reese and I had been summoned. We were fired for violating the company's code of conduct. As we cleared out our desks, Reese wouldn't even look at me. The man for whom I had risked everything was suddenly a stranger again, his focus entirely on his own survival. That night, I tried to talk to Silas. I cried. I begged. I promised it would never happen again. He just watched me, my performance of remorse, with those same empty eyes. "The girls can't know about this," he finally said, his voice level. "We'll figure out what to do. But they can't know their mother is a cheater." The word cheater hit me like a physical blow. I wanted to argue, to explain the nuances, the complexities, the problems in our marriage that existed before Reese. But one look at his face told me it was pointless. In his mind, the world was now divided into two distinct eras. Before I cheated, and after. Nothing in between mattered. The weeks that followed were a desperate one-woman campaign to fix the unfixable. I found a new job quickly, hoping to show him I was responsible. I started therapy, leaving the therapist's card on the kitchen counter where he would see it. I left little affectionate notes for him, a pathetic echo of our early dating years. I tried to initiate sex one night, thinking maybe physical connection could bridge the emotional chasm. It was a disaster. He looked at me not with desire, but with something akin to pity, then turned his back and walked out of the room. About 2 months in, drowning in his silence, I made my most catastrophic miscalculation. I had always known Silas had a more adventurous side he rarely indulged. So, one night, in a twisted act of desperation, I suggested we try an open marriage. "Just for you," I said, my voice trembling with my own self-loathing. "I'd understand if you wanted to see other women. Maybe it would help you get past what I did. To make things even." I cringed even as the words left my mouth, but I couldn't stop them. "I could even help. I could find women for you. Or we could try a threesome, if that would make you happy." I thought I was being magnanimous, offering him the same twisted freedom I had stolen. Instead, he looked at me with pure, unadulterated disgust. "Is that really what you think this is about?" His voice was ice. "That I'm jealous? That all I want is permission to cheat, too? My God, Lorelei." He shook his head, a slow, mournful gesture. "I don't want an open marriage. I don't want other women. I wanted a wife who respected our vows." He took a step closer, his eyes boring into mine. "If you ever," he said, his voice dangerously low, "mention anything like this again, open marriages, threesomes, any of it, I will file for divorce immediately, no matter what it does to the girls. I will not live in a mockery of a marriage." He wasn't bluffing. I saw it in the hard set of his jaw, the absolute certainty in his eyes. And in that moment I realized how profoundly I had misjudged everything. I had projected my own shallow desires onto him, assuming his pain could be fixed with an equally shallow solution. I hadn't just broken his heart, I had revealed that I didn't even know what was in it. After my disastrous open marriage proposal, I suggested couples therapy. To my surprise, Silas agreed. But the therapist's office was just another stage for our grim performance. He would answer questions politely, go through the communication exercises, even complete the homework assignments. But it was all mechanical compliance. There was no life behind his eyes, no genuine desire to reconnect. The moment we left the office, the silent treatment resumed. Months bled into a year, then 2. It was a period of slow, torturous erosion. I lost weight. Sleep became a stranger. I developed a persistent anxiety that felt like a tight band around my chest. Meanwhile, Silas seemed to thrive. He got a promotion at work. He started going to the gym with a new dedication, his body becoming leaner, harder. He took Willow and Sage on weekend trips hiking, visiting museums, exploring nearby cities. "To give you some space," he'd say in front of them, his tone so considerate that it was venomous. He wasn't being considerate. He was practicing his life without me. I became paranoid. I frantically checked his phone when he was in the shower, scoured his credit card bills, desperate to find evidence of an affair of his own. An affair would have been ammunition. It would have made us even. But there was nothing. No suspicious texts, no unexplained absences, no secret credit card. The disappointment was a bitter pill. He was playing by a set of rules I had long since abandoned. The worst part was watching him with our daughters. He was still the perfect father. He helped with homework, attended every school event, made pancakes on Sunday mornings. They adored him, completely oblivious to the fact that their father couldn't bear to be in the same room as their mother when they weren't looking. One night, after the girls had gone to bed, I couldn't take it anymore. The pretense was suffocating me more than the silence. "Why are you doing this?" I asked him, my voice raw. "Why are you putting so much effort into pretending? If you hate me so much, why not just tell them the truth and leave?" He looked at me for a long moment, a genuine, considering look that was rare and terrifying. "Because, Lorelei," he said, his voice calm and devastatingly clear, "unlike you, I don't make choices based solely on what I want in the moment. Our daughters deserve an intact home until they're ready to leave it. After that..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. The countdown had been officially announced. The confirmation came a few weeks later. I was looking for a misplaced insurance document in his desk, and my hand brushed against a file folder I hadn't seen before. My heart hammered against my ribs as I opened it. Inside was a collection of documents that laid out his escape route in chilling detail: financial planning spreadsheets, modeling a income life, printouts of apartment listings in the city near his office, and a consultation receipt from a divorce attorney. The date on the receipt made my blood run cold. It was from just a few weeks after D-Day Discovery Day, as they call it on the infidelity support forums I'd started browsing in my lonely, sleepless nights. My desperate attempts to save us, the therapy, the notes, the agonizing performance of remorse, it had all been for nothing. While I had been frantically trying to glue the pieces of our shattered vase back together, he had been patiently, meticulously building himself a new life raft, just waiting for the right time to set sail and leave me to drown in the wreckage. The ticking clock grew louder with every passing day. Willow's high school graduation was the first major milestone on Silas's timeline, and it loomed like a gallows. The day itself was a masterclass in our family's theater of denial. We sat side by side in the audience, clapping and cheering as Willow walked across the stage to receive her diploma. Silas's parents were there, so were mine, all of us playing our parts in this happy family tableau. As we posed for photos afterward, Silas's arm around my shoulder felt like a stranger's. It was a prop placed for the camera. His smile was dazzling for everyone else, but when his eyes met mine through the lens, they were vacant. We hosted a small party at the house, our last event as a complete family unit, though only Silas and I knew it. He was the perfect host, charming and attentive. I felt like a ghost at my own party, watching him move through the rooms of the life we had built, knowing he was already gone. That night, after the last guest had left and the girls had gone to bed, the performance was over. Silas walked into the living room where I was numbly stacking dirty plates. He was holding a manila envelope. "I think it's time," he said, his voice matter of fact. He handed it to me. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were divorce papers, already filled out, just waiting for my signature. "I've been more than fair with the financial arrangements," he said, his tone as neutral as if we were discussing a business transaction. "You can keep the house until Sage graduates if you want, or we can sell it now and split the proceeds. I've already found an apartment downtown." I stared at him, the reality finally crashing through my denial with the force of a tidal wave. "You're really doing this," I whispered. "After all this time, you're still leaving Andre." "I told you I would," he replied, no anger in his voice, just a quiet, unshakable certainty. "I stayed for the girls. Willow's an adult now. Sage will understand." "She won't," I pleaded, tears finally welling up. "You don't have to do this. We can still work it out. People recover from affairs all the time." He looked at me then, and for the first time in 2 years, I saw something other than emptiness or disgust in his eyes. It was almost pity. "This isn't about the affair anymore, Lorelei," he said softly. "It's about the fact that I don't trust you. I don't even know you. The woman I married wouldn't have done what you did. And she certainly wouldn't have suggested I sleep with other women to make things even. This marriage has been over for 2 years. I've just been waiting for the right time to make it official. He moved out the next day while Sage was at a friend's house. He took only what he needed for his new apartment, leaving the rest of his life packed in boxes in the garage. When Sage came home and found out, she was devastated. And she blamed me, instinctively, without needing to know the details. "What did you do?" she screamed at me, her face streaked with tears. Silas had kept his promise and never told her about the affair, but she was 16, not stupid. She knew. She has barely spoken to me since. Within weeks, the news of our separation rippled through our social circle. I tried to control the narrative, suggesting we'd simply grown apart. But then came the final, brutal blow. Silas started dating. Not casually. Not playing the field like I might have expected. He was dating one woman, seriously. Someone from his office. Her name was Clara. Even her name sounded wholesome and trustworthy. I saw them together for the first time at a restaurant downtown. I was having lunch with a friend when they walked in, hand in hand. Silas looked happy. Genuinely, radiantly happy, in a way I hadn't seen in years. He was laughing, a deep, full-throated laugh that I hadn't heard directed at me since before D-Day. He looked lighter, unburdened. My friend saw them too, and her gaze flickered to me with pity. "Did you know?" she asked gently. I shook my head, unable to speak past the massive lump that had formed in my throat. 8 months after he moved out, Silas proposed to Clara. Sage told me, her voice a strange mixture of excitement for her father and accusation toward me. "Dad's getting married again. Clara's really nice. She actually listens when I talk." The divorce was finalized last month. Silas and Clara are getting married in the spring. Sage has asked to live with them after the wedding. Willow calls from college, but when she's home, she visits her father's new apartment. She only stops by my house out of a sense of strained obligation. The beautiful home that was once filled with laughter and love now feels like an empty museum, filled with artifacts from a life that no longer exists. In one of our last, real conversations, mediated by lawyers, I finally got the answers I was too afraid to ask before. He told me he hadn't been secretly planning his exit from the very beginning. He had genuinely tried to forgive me in those first few weeks. "It was your behavior afterward that killed any chance of reconciliation," he said, his voice clinical but not unkind. "The manipulation. The suggestion of an open marriage. Your refusal to take full responsibility. You weren't sorry you cheated, Lorelei. You were sorry you got caught. By the time you understood what you'd really lost, it was far too late." He was right. I wasn't truly remorseful. Not at first. I was just desperate to avoid the consequences, to keep my comfortable life intact. The real, soul-deep regret came much later, after everything was already gone. Last week, I ran into Reese. It was the first time I'd seen him since the day we were fired. He was at the grocery store with his wife, someone younger, prettier. He barely acknowledged me, just a tight, awkward nod, before he hurried his cart down another aisle. The passionate, life-altering affair for which I had incinerated my family wasn't even memorable enough for him to feel awkward about. I was just another conquest in his rearview mirror. So here I am, alone in a house too big for one person, surrounded by framed photos I can't bear to look at but can't bring myself to take down. The divorce settlement was generous. Silas has always been a better person than me, but money doesn't keep you warm at night. It doesn't call to check if you're okay. It doesn't hold your hand through good news and bad. I thought the worst consequence of my affair would be Silas's anger. I was wrong, his indifference was worse. And now this new reality, watching him build a happy, vibrant life with someone else, while mine crumbles into dust, this is the true punishment. Not because he intended it that way, but because it's the natural, inevitable result of the choices I made. Sometimes, on the darkest nights, I take out my phone and hover my thumb over Silas's contact name. I compose texts I never send. "I'm sorry. He's heard that 1,000 times. I miss you." That would only burden him with a guilt he doesn't deserve. "I still love you." That stopped being relevant the moment I betrayed him. So I live with the echoes. I smile through Sage's increasingly rare visits. I send Willow care packages at college. I go to work, come home, eat dinner alone, and wonder how I could have been so blind, so selfish, so certain that the grass was greener somewhere else when I already had everything that mattered right here. Back in that silent, shattered bedroom 2 years ago, Silas asked me a question I couldn't answer then. Was it worth it? The answer haunts my every waking moment and poisons my dreams. As I lie alone in our king-sized bed, the space beside me cold for 730 consecutive nights, I finally have my answer. Nothing was worth this. Nothing ever could be.